So I've just realised I may have made a massive cock up that's going to take hours to rectify.
Well guys, in today's video we will be getting the Golf R engine into the S3 and we will be starting up for the first time. We left the last video with the timing chain all built up, engine ready to go, S-tronic gearbox on the S3 back on. The only thing I've got to do is fit a transfer box. I have a choice of two. They're both absolutely identical, so I'm just going to pick, I don't care, either one of them. So we've just got to fit that on, and then it's just a simple case of lifting it into position over the dog mount at the bottom, making sure the prop goes into the transfer box spline, because yeah, I didn't remove the prop, so I'm gonna have to make sure that goes in. And then it's just a case of hooking this starter motor up, plugging things in, changing the sump, changing something else, and then going for a start.
So for those of you who haven't seen this car before, that engine is from the Golf R that I bought from Copart, which is a Cat B. God knows what's happened to the engine, but the car was in a very bad way, probably been rolled 100 times. So I'm hoping that the engine in this is good. It seems to be fine so far anyway, so yeah, should be good.
So as I say, we're going to start things off by fitting a transfer box, and yeah, let's get it in. The engine all on now on both mounts. The dog bone mount I'll do in a second. The prop is in. Currently, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, down there, look, but it's in the transfer. Don't know if you can see it down there, look, but it's in the transfer box. If I just do that with my knee, look, you can see it slide all the way in. So obviously once the dog bone mounts in position, that will be nice and flush. So we can do that up. Yeah, so now it's just gonna be a case of plugging the bare minimum to get the car running. So we need to put the starter motor on, obviously plug all our ECUs in, or our ECU, gearbox ECU as well, plug that in. Just, oh yeah, all the sensors that are required to run momentarily. Obviously I'm not worried about coolant or charger yet, because we won't have the front end to remember to complete the circuit. So after getting the sump off the old engine, I had to go to town cleaning it. Well, so much so, it looks pretty much brand new now. Look, there's so many little, still a little one there, look, little metal flakes in it. Look, tiny little metal flakes. I'm just gonna go over it again, I think. But, I mean, how are you meant to clean the engine out of all these little metal flakes? I don't know. I mean, it was hard enough cleaning the sump, and I think I'm gonna have to go over it again because there's still little bits in there. Right, I'm gonna go over this again, just to get everything out, but yeah.
Now I'd just like to give a massive thanks to today's sponsor of the video, which is AG1, that enables me to bring you videos like this. AG1 is a nutritional drink that you have alongside your normal diet. You can have it in the morning as a routine, or you can have it at any timely habit, usually once a day. It's great because it can cover all your nutritional needs, it can support your immune system and gut health. I've been using AG1 now for around 6 to 7 weeks to support my daily lifestyle, because I don't eat great much of the time. So to know that I'm getting the nutrients that my body needs, it's always a boost. And along with obviously immune system, I've been ill quite a lot over the last 3 months. So anything that will help me have a healthier lifestyle is a benefit for me. Now I normally have it at lunchtime. That's just the easiest time of the day to have it. It takes a couple of seconds to make up. Once you've got it here, it actually looks, it's like that green, same colour as the TV actually. It's that green that just looks healthy for you. And it looks like a bit like seaweed, which is disgusting to me, but it actually tastes quite like sweets. So I definitely feel over the sort of last 4 weeks that I have felt more alert. I've not been ill for a start, so that's a bonus. And I've just felt a little bit sharper as well. So, I mean, I don't know fully everything yet, but there are just a few things that I've noticed. So if you want to give AG1 a try yourself, guys, click the link in my description, and by using my link you'll also get a 3-year supply of vitamin D3, K2 and 5 free travel packs as well. So a massive thanks to AG1 for sponsoring today's video. Sweets. So I've just realised I may have made a massive cock up that's going to take hours to rectify. Now this is a slight oversight on my part, but yeah, I should have checked really, but obviously we are swapping the engine from a manual gearbox to an automatic gearbox, and automatic gearbox, as you know, have more sensors than a manual gearbox. Now, one of the sensors that it has is the coolant pump, which sits on top of the gearbox here. And as you can see, look, there is a little connector for said coolant pump. Now, on the other engine, there is another wire that comes off the main engine loom and just pops down there and plugs in. And obviously, this loom comes from a manual car, so I do not have said connector. Now, just to show you on this engine, it's here, look, this lead here, look, so this is the kite cable that I just showed you, and you can see the additional wire just coming down to plug in there. Now, that just seems a bit bizarre, because I think that is the only plug that is different between the two engines. Now, why would VW make two completely different wiring looms for a manual and an automatic gearbox? So you've got the automatic gearbox loom here, which plugs into the mechatronics. Obviously that is specific to the automatic, the manual doesn't have that. So why didn't they just run one extra cable that goes here and just plugs into that loom? All they had to do, look, it's literally a foot. Why didn't they do that? And therefore, all the wiring looms could be the same for all the engines, and they just had to run one extra cable off of that. Why? So I've just been connecting up, heater matrix hoses that go into the bulkhead, gearbox, selector cable, exhaust I've mounted at the top here. What else we've done? A few of the O2 sensors, they're all plugged in. I've done all the wiring for the ECU, ironically, and I've done the alternator, I think, cable as well. That's into the fuse board. Gearbox is plugged in, earths are plugged in, starter motor's on and plugged in. We've got a battery cable here. We've got a fuel line here, so what we got here? So this is the fuel line that came with the Golf R, which is cut off here. This is the fuel line that was on the S3, which goes to here. So I just need to basically remove this one, unplug it there, and put this one in its place, and that is the fuel literally done. That is pretty much all. I can't think of anything else I need to do. So I'm going to get the oil filter, change the oil filter, put some oil in it, and we're going to go for a start, I reckon. I can't see any reason why not. Obviously we need a battery, so I'll get the battery fitted as well. So fuel line's now connected up, removed the old one. I've just put the battery on and put power to the car. So now we'll be able to start the, well, not start the car yet, but turn the ignition on, just see what codes we've got, just see if there's any plugs that are missing, that I haven't plugged in, that we need for the engine. So all I've got to do now is turn the ignition on, which is going to be easier said than done. Right, finally, I got ignition on. Oh, that was hard work. Let me turn the window. Come on. Right. What I'm looking for are static codes. Oh, there you go. Transmission coolant valve, open circuit. Thank you! Right, in fact, you know what? Let's just clear DTCs. Don't even bother reading them. We'll just see what comes back. Engine coolant temperature sensor. 2 circuit high. Okay, so hasn't come back. Actually, it's even cleared the bloody transmission coolant pump. Just hilarious. See if anything else comes back. Okay, there we go. So, right, coolant shut-off valve. Now it's plugged in, so it could just have been a current fault. So obviously, I don't know what else was wrong with this car before I changed the engine. Probably should have read the codes beforehand, but there we go. So that could just be a fault from before. That we know about. Cooling fan, there's no fans. That's plugged in, so again, that could be another fault. That's not plugged in, that's not plugged in.
and those two could be anything. They could be anything to do with those two codes, or because we've got a lot of things still unplugged. So it will come out of there for now, and then just turn the car over, and yeah, hope for the best. Yeah, hopefully it starts, runs okay for 5-10 seconds, and then once that's all good, we can go ahead and start putting all the coolant side things back together, put the slam panel back on, and then we can run it up to temperature properly.
Well, hello. That sounds pretty good to me. She sounds sweet. Okay, that'll do. No, that sounds spot on. Well, the engine ran really nice and smooth then, so gamble has possibly paid off. We won't obviously until it's fully back together, and I've looked at everything. But for now, engine runs good, so I'm going to continue putting it back together, and that means getting it back on the ramp and start replacing the pipes, the coolant pipes that are broken on the front, getting everything on the front done until we can get the so we can get the slam panel back on, plug all our coolant lines in, plug all our boost pipes, everything like that in, and then we can run the car up to temperature with coolant in, just to make sure then everything is spot on. So yeah, good news, engine runs, sounds sweet. So if you don't want to hear a detailed explanation into what I'm doing with this wiring loom, skip forward about 1.5 minutes. But if you do, listen on. So this is the Golf R engine which had the manual gearbox on. So this wiring loom we shall call the manual loom. This wiring loom is from the automatic gearbox, the old engine, so we will call that the DSG loom. Now, the only difference, I've completely checked all the wiring diagrams there, the only difference between the two looms is this one sensor that drops down here, or that should drop down here, and plug into the coolant pump for the gearbox. Obviously, the manual gearbox doesn't have a coolant pump, which is why it doesn't have the sensor. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I don't want to swap the looms over. One is because the wiring up here was butchered on the DSG loom. This one is not. It is nice and not butchered. Another reason is because I've already cut these 3 sensors off the loom and soldered them into this one. So that would mean I have to cut them back out of this one and resolder them into the other one, which is a faff. And the other reason is because I don't want to have to unplug all that from that engine and swap it all over. So my idea was just to splice in the additional wire into the loom of the manual one. I hope you're with me so far. But this is where the problem started. I tried to trace, because obviously we need 2 extra wires, so we should have 2 additional wires in the wiring loom. Now, I couldn't find it in the main block here. Look, the main ECU connector, they all were the same. However, I did find 2 additional wires in here. Pin 1 and pin 13 on here, look, you can see are both blank manual loom. If we go over to the automatic loom, we can see pin 1 and 13 have wires in. So I thought, yep, they're my 2 missing wires. However, this is the connector here that's additional that I need. If you can see, one's green and blue, one's red and grey. The green and blue one, I've got pin 1, but pin 13, look, is red and blue, is that? It ain't the same colour as that one anyway. So I had to strip more of the wiring loom just to find out where they went. And it turns out pin 13 actually goes from the connector here and straight into the main wiring loom. It just goes out of here and straight into there. But that didn't explain where my wire is, my 2 wires are. I've got one of them, didn't explain where the other one went. But after winding back some more tape, I actually found out it joins up with another cable, and yeah, 2 become 1. So as you can see here, look, it goes in and only 1 comes out. So it basically just gets fed into the loom itself. And as you can see there, look, it says DSG1. So there we have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to splice that into the wiring loom exactly like it is from the factory, to be fair. And I'm also going to put the pins, the correct pins from the grey connector into the main wiring loom as well. And as you can see, I have already taken the pin out of the other ECU, the main loom, and I've already threaded it into the correct position there. So all I've got to do now is join this into pin 13 in here. That is done. And then I've just got to find the one of the other wires I've got to take from the connector and put it into pin 1. And that is then done. I mean, I'm still confused, so if anyone else is still confused, I'm going to try and draw you a clear picture. So here's my picture, and you can see my coolant connector here with the 2 wires coming off it. 1 wire bridges into the main wiring loom, which is this main wire here, look, on the left.
The other wire is a separate wire that runs alongside the main loom, if you will, and that comes out and that goes straight to the grey connector. And then so that is one of the pins in the grey connector, and the other pin at the grey connector just comes out of that and goes straight into the main ECU pins. So that is how it works, and that is how I've got to now feed it into the manual loom.
So I really hope that makes sense. I can't help feel though I've maybe just confused you even more, or even myself. But I'm now just going to go ahead and do all that I've just explained, and I'll come back to you in a couple of seconds. Whether it's successful or not, I don't know, but we'll see.
Well, I've got a slight update which I'm very happy about, because I've now managed to do this so it actually is exactly the same as the factory loom, albeit the wires are going to be taped on the outside of this loom additionally. I mean, that's the only difference. So basically what I've done is the two sensors, the sensor that shared one of the wires to the additional sensor that I need, as you can see, look here, I've managed to strip them fully from the loom. So you've got your two sensors, there's my additional one, and I've managed to strip them perfectly. Even the pins, I've stripped the pins because they all went into the grey connector. So I've now taken, where's my grey connector? So here it is, look. So I've taken the blanks out, which were on pins 1 and 13. I've already plugged in pin 13, which will then go, unfortunately I did cut that. It was, albeit by mistake. I just need to solder that to the brown wire that goes into the ECU. But all the pins are now ready to go into this connector here, and then my factory loom will be back in place, and I can then just plug it in and everything will be like it should be. So the only difference from the factory loom would literally be that solder connector I've got to put on there, and the fact that I'm going to take them to the outside of the loom, which, let's be honest, there's no relevance. So I'm happy. Right, I have just plumbed in the main ECU loom, and you can see, look, I've just run some tape over it, so it looks very much factory look, and I've run it into there. This connector's all done as well, look, also looking very factory. I've just left exposed the wires running alongside the loom that go up to this sensor here, and as you can see, I've plugged in my additional, if you can see, I've plugged in my additional sensor here, and the other sensor I plumbed in at the top here, which just leaves us with this connector, which is part of the old loom, or it's part of the loom, which I can just cut out now. I don't need it, or I can just leave it there. I'll probably just cut it out so it looks a bit more factory. But before I taped everything up, I just thought I'd check the codes, and pleased to report I have no coolant pump for the gearbox. The only ones I've got now is the ones I had before. There we go, look, loom now all in position. Running down to there, there's that connector. One's along there, and as you can see, look, all now completely hidden, and you wouldn't actually, I've cut that other connector out as well, and there is our new connector in place, and you wouldn't even know. Proper happy with that, proper job.
So now what I'm doing is just replacing any broken pipes that I may have. There is one massive charge pipe which I've just replaced there. There's a couple of coolant pipes as well. Luckily I've got the spare engine so I can take most things off that I need without having to go out and buy parts. But in total there was a good 4 or 5 pipes that I needed to replace. Luckily I didn't have to buy any. And now I'm just refitting the washer jet bottle just because it's in a really awkward place, and once I've got the front end on, it'll be very, very difficult to refit. And now I'm just putting the slam panel back on, 1 or 2 bolts, and connecting up my coolant pipes.
Now we are in a position to start the car. So front end has just been loosely put on with 1 bolt each side. I've plugged all my coolant lines in and a few electrical connectors, nothing major, but we are now good to go. Now I've just topped it up with about 1 litre of water to start with, purely because if we have got any leaks, I'd rather water leak onto the floor than coolant. So we'll start with 1 litre, start it up, let that run around the system, and once we're confident there's no leaks, we can then start topping it up with antifreeze. So yeah, we are in a position to go. So I'm just going to hook the battery back up, go for a start, and hope this thing runs nice. She is sounding sweet, to be fair. I've just stuck another 500ml of water in, and we're looking good. Can't see any coolant dripping on the floor. So I'll leave it running for a little bit longer, and then I'll start putting a little bit of antifreeze in. The only problem I've got is this dreaded little pipe here always snaps, and I haven't been able to get a new one yet. Luckily it's just like a bit of an overflow, so it shouldn't come out for a while, not until it's probably up to temperature anyway. So we'll know by then if we've got any leaks. But no, engine sounds good. The only thing I haven't connected is the charge pipe that goes from the intercooler to the turbo. So I haven't fully completed the circuit. So obviously it's a massive pipe that goes across there, and I'm not fully finished here yet. But if I rev it a little bit, it might rev. Let's give it a little. But it sounds nice though. Where's the foil? Nice. It sounds really nice. Sounds beautiful.
So I'm going to leave that to run and get up to temperature, and that is going to be it for today's video, guys. I think it's actually gone really well and made a lot of progress. Engine's running sweet. I think I've fixed the wiring issues. We'll find out in the next video. In the next video, it's going to be put the whole thing back together, road test, MOT. I think MOT before road test, or MOT and road test. But it's going to be fully done in the next video, guys. And then we can start modifying it and putting the turbo from the GTR on it. But that will be down the line. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this video. And in the next one, we will be on to the R8, because I've got to go pick up all the stuff from the engine shop and start rebuilding that engine. So cheers, guys.